should have got the name of this whiskey.
It's on the bottle.
I know. I forgot though.
It's way upstairs.
Like Minnesota 14 or some shit.
Yeah, Minnesota something. A little bit of honey in it or whatnot. It's pretty good stuff.
Yeah. Cheers.
It is a weeknight. Cheers. So I might go heavy on a different night. So this is gonna be it for me. But
I'm done after this.
Yeah, you got two. Two's your
one.
limit anyway. Yeah.
Yeah.
What we started to talk about at the conclusion of the last one was testosterone replacement therapy. Nick been through cancer, and he had some adjustments physically because of that cancer, and then he got light, lost a lot of weight after that.
Yeah, so it was actually during the whole cancer thing. I had been struggling with some things here and there, and it was a little bit of depression. I suffered from PTSD. I used to until I did a little fun with some microdosing. We'll talk about that too if you want to. But what ended up happening was I started to feel depressed. I'm like, something's not right. I know when something's not right with my physical body because I understand the chemicals.
Yeah.
So when I'm starting to feel a certain way, I know go to the gym. Or if I'm feeling depressed, go work out. Go to the gym. Go for a hike. Go do something outside physical. Or go to jiu-jitsu and get the oxytocin and endorphins and everything. And everything I did just didn't work. And I'm like, something's not right. And then it bumped in my testicle. I was like, oh, ow. So I'm like, something's not right. So then I'm seeing that I had testicular cancer in my left nut. Took that out and I was fine. I was down to about 180 pounds. After that, I had taken probably about 6 months, dude. No working out, no lifting weights. I quit my job. Now at this point, I had gotten 80% through the VA, right? So it's about $2,000 a month.
Yeah,
right, off of disability from
that,
brain injuries and a couple other things. I had a couple TBIs in Iraq and Afghanistan from getting mortared and a few other things, getting knocked out. A couple things were stupid. I fell off a truck, got knocked the fuck out, but it's a 15-foot truck, so yeah, some pretty stupid circumstances. I never got shot, nothing like that. So I ended up getting 80%. So I'm like, okay, it's $2,000 a month. I could just run W&A full time.
Yeah.
My girlfriend makes enough money, we'll be fine. I pay half the bills, she pays half the bills, and I still got some money left over. We'll be fine.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that I was sleeping until about 11 a.m. most days.
Oh, yeah.
I'd get up, I'd start making my phone calls, doing my rounds, like everything that I do with the nonprofit, I can technically do from my bed, right? Unless it's a one-on-one visitation. But most things like the social media, the marketing, answering messages, answering emails, I still got to do all that shit. I could do it anywhere. I could do it in my bed if I want to, which is actually kind of a nice luxury.
Oh, yeah.
Because every once in a while, I'm like, I'm so tired. I'm just going to stay in bed till like 9 o'clock, right?
Order a pizza.
I'll sit in bed, doing my thing. I've even taken suicide calls in my bed before.
I remember you told me about that. Yeah.
I didn't even get out of bed.
Any time of the day or night?
Yeah, so the veteran crisis line that I run, it's Warriors Next Adventure crisis line. So anytime a veteran's in crisis, like, hey, my house is on fire, like, something's not right. Yeah. If they need help, like, right now, they can call. Mostly suicides, right? So we've had 112 suicide calls on our line, and they're all still alive, so I'm pretty fucking good at what I do.
Nice.
I don't brag about a lot of things, but that's a number I'm proud of.
That's huge.
It's 112 lives that are still around. And my board member, Will, told me, he's like, think about the amount of generations that you might have saved.
Oh.
I've never thought about that.
The trajectory of
exactly. Like,
the seed.
What's the impact that had made?
Yeah.
But I had never thought about that. Anyway, so I started to get fat. I was about 205 to 210 pounds. But I had a fucking gut, dude. I had no shoulder.
I remember seeing, I think this is before you went back to jiu-jitsu, but I think it was a golf picture or something. And you had the little belly.
Yep.
I was like, is that Rick's brother? I
was fat, dude. I was so fat. And that was at Topgolf.
Okay.
So Topgolf back in like, I think it was March time frame, maybe April.
Yeah.
So about April, May, I finally was like, something's not right? My testicle was gone. I got my testosterone levels checked, and I had dropped like 200 points, right? It's 200 parts per milligram is what I lost. I was at about 550, which for a 34-year-old athlete, that's not good.
550. And I'm sorry, I'll just jump in real quick. Because when you go to get your levels checked, unless you're going to an endocrinologist, not a general practitioner, if you're in range, but the range is also if you're 79 years old. I think if you're above 250 nanograms per deciliter, you're fine. Not if you want to be optimal, and if not, if you're 79. No.
Exactly.
So you were 200 below?
I was at like 760, 780-ish before.
Okay.
Which is like, if you think about it, that's an athlete. Right? That's a fucking 20 to 30-year-old athlete.
Mm-hmm. That's
a good level, right? But my sex drive had been down since June of 2021. I didn't think much of it. I thought, it's whatever. I got a pretty hot girlfriend, so there's never really been issues in the bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really hard for me. She kind of decides.
If it's not really hard, that's when you want to see a doctor.
Yeah, so there was no issue.
Yeah.
But I realized I didn't initiate sex in almost a year.
Ooh, so that aggressiveness, the positive sexual aggressiveness.
Well, I wasn't initiating anything.
Okay.
It was all her.
Okay.
Which our relationship, we're a very physical couple.
Mm-hmm.
We physically love to touch each other. We're both, if you know the 5 love languages, if anyone on this program has never read the 5 love languages, read that book, listen to the Audible. It's amazing. But both of our love languages, touch is number 1 for sure.
Having matching love languages are huge.
I love to touch her. She loves to touch me. Mm-hmm. It's win-win, right? It's perfect. So like she literally sleeps like on top of me, and it's not even sexual most of the time. So like there's never an issue with sex, but I didn't realize that I didn't have a sex drive. And so I finally decided to ask the VA, will you guys help me out? They said, we won't do anything to you until you're under 220. And I'm like, that's like a 70-year-old male. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, no, that's not okay. I'm a 34-year-old athlete. I'm not happy with that.
That's what I was saying. The general range that they do is like 220, 250. I can't remember what it was. But if you're in that range, even though if you're at the bottom, they're like, no, we can't help you.
Mm-hmm. You know way more about this than I do. I only know from my experience. That's it.
Yeah. And the reason why I want to touch on it is because I have a different perspective. Now, you took it out of necessity. Well, I experimented early on. I think it was, I was 25. I've been lifting weights since I was 18. And I read books. We didn't have YouTube back then, but I read a ton of books to try to understand this stuff. And I was curious about trying it. So I did very well lifting naturally, taking protein, eating good for, is that 7 years? 25?
Ish, yeah.
And then I had a round of, it's called Dianabol, 5 milligram tablets, nothing too strong. I got 100 from a female bodybuilder I knew.
Yeah.
And I took 3 a day for 33 days. Oh my God. Fucking exploded.
What aspects of your life got better from that? Because I had a very positive, I was taking Sustanon. I'm still taking Sustanon.
That's what you got for a replacement?
I don't go to a TRT clinic.
Well, neither do I.
But yes,
we can talk about that later.
I take Sustanon. So Sustanon 300.
How many do you do a week though?
I take 300 milligrams a week.
One shot?
So I take 2 shots. I take 2 shots of 100. Well, it's 0.5 cc's.
Okay.
So I take 2 shots of 0.5 on usually Tuesday, and then like Thursday. Friday.
I do Friday night and then Tuesday morning, 3.5 days. So it's equal because Sustanon has an early spike and a long drag. So
that's why I always try to no more than 3 days.
Keep it stable. Yeah. But anyway, so I experimented with steroids. I did it responsibly because I studied, for 4 years before I tried anything. But then I found a connection, actually like a bunch of them. I mean, I'm not talking locally, I'm talking about globally. So it was cheap and...
My connections are very, very well known in the community. So it's not just a guy on the streets.
Yeah, no.
Right. So the guy that I go to, I'm not going to say anything about it. I don't want to get anybody in trouble. But he actually trains bodybuilders.
Yeah. Back in the day, it was easier to find a bad avenue to take if you found it locally. Now, no. Now I think anybody, especially if they're respected in the community, you're going to be fine. I'm not recommending it.
Go to a TRT clinic.
Yeah.
If you do it correctly, go to a TRT clinic, tell them that you're struggling. They will give you replacements, right? A regular clinic will not do anything for you until you're sub 79-year-old male levels.
Here's the funny thing, right? I was 30 years old. I was pretty thick, right? I was lifting in my heyday, pretty thick. But I realized once you do a cycle of steroids, your endogenous hormones, which your body produces, goes way down. and I knew what they tested for. I can't even remember how I knew it. They look for luteinizing hormone, and then they look for
Who's they?
FSH, the doctors.
Okay.
I went to not an endocrinologist. What's the P doctor? What do you call those?
Urologist?
Yeah, I went to a urologist. And I knew what they were looking for. So I knew my testosterone was low, but they're going to check my follicle stimulating hormone and my luteinizing hormone. There's a drug called Clomid that'll boost your luteinizing hormone. Post-cycle, it would have been low anyways.
Mm-hmm.
But I took that, and then they're going to check your thyroid to see if there's a negative feedback coming from your thyroid that you might have a tumor that's causing low testosterone. I didn't know that part, but I knew that they're going to test for luteinizing hormone. So I waited till I was done with the cycle. Then I took Clomid to boost my luteinizing hormone. And they're like, yeah, we can't figure it out, you know. And they did the thyroid test. Everything was fine. Okay, so at 30 years old, so I'm almost 50 now. So go back 20. Who the fuck could pull that off?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I didn't have the internet to research this stuff.
Yeah.
But I got the prescription, and I think I kept it going for a year.
Now let me just preface something, right? So this is from personal thought. This is from my mind, right? Not with my organization or anything like that. I'm of the mindset of I just want to carry a gun and smoke weed at my gay friend's wedding.
Yeah.
I don't want anyone to tell me what I can and can't do, what I can and can't put in my body.
Yeah.
I think personally, in correct usages and carefully, under, educated persuasion, I think anybody should be able to take testosterone. I think anybody should be able to. I tell people all the time, go get your testosterone checked. Right? There's guys that I'm starting to realize that are having a lot of the same side effects I was having.
Yeah.
And I want to say 5 of them now have gotten their testosterone checked. They're below 300.
Yeah.
That's not good.
That's one of the things, and I would say that even if I didn't experiment with steroids when I was younger, because that has a long-lasting impact as well. So if I did a couple cycles in my 20s and early 30s.
What were you taking?
Name it.
Okay.
I mean, I had the connections. I'm like, I never tried this before. And there was one Christmas picture I saw in my mom's house. My neck was thick. I was wearing a T-shirt, not a fitted T-shirt.
Yeah. It was fitted because you were massive.
Oh, my face was puffy, But I did experiment, and I realized that, okay, there's going to be an impact, lifelong impact. Just like a diabetic. I'm like, I'm going to have to do this testosterone thing. Even though I fucked around at 30 thinking, okay, badge of honor, I got a doctor to prescribe it to me legitimately, that I'm going to have to use this for lifelong now because I toyed around too much when I was younger. So there is a negative impact on that. And I'm not trying to sensationalize using steroids to advance your physical stature. But even if I didn't do that, at this point, even if I was 30 years old or even in your 20s, if you're experiencing what you're experiencing, go get it checked out because there's so many things in our environment that'll push your testosterone down nowadays that weren't there before. So if we look at our fathers or our grandfathers, their natural testosterone, maybe they didn't work out, maybe they had a stressful life, which would lower it too. They were kicking our ass. They were manly.
Well, I always tell people too, think about it like this. If your energy is massively down, like my experience with Sustenance has been fucking amazing, right? My energy levels are up. I haven't needed coffee since April, right? I still drink it occasionally because I actually really enjoy coffee.
Yeah,
it's something I actually like to drink.
Yeah.
It's like a Monster every once in a while. I actually enjoy the taste of Monster. I
Oh,
like it. I don't need it anymore though. I wake up and I feel good, right? My sex drive is. My girlfriend's not complaining, that's for sure. We have like I said, we have very physical relationships. She's very happy. I like the only problem, like the only negative thing I've noticed is like the random boners. Like it's like I'm in high school again.
This guy's playing the victim here. I think that was next on my list. The victim mentality.
That's literally the only like negative side effect, but it's not even that bad. Like I personally like, I'll wake up in the morning and. Like, again, to get, I think the certain people watching this aren't going to be the type that would get offended by this. So I wake up in the morning, sometimes I'll still be soft, but I'll be throbbing as if I'm going to come. Like, it's that intense. And so I grab my woman, right? Me and my woman have a very...
Understanding.
Yes. Like, Viking king, Viking queen. Like, she's my woman. I'm her man.
It's time.
If she wants it, I can't say no.
There's nothing
I
wrong
want
with
it.
that.
She can't say
It's
no.
a mutual.
Yeah, and we've had this agreement. So this is a mutual agreement between the two of us. Essentially, is sex is a very important part of a relationship because we both bond very well through sex.
Yeah.
And so I can grab her in the morning like, you're mine right now.
Yeah.
Like, I want it. You know, she's waking me up. She wakes me in the morning. I wake her up though. I like my fucking sleep. Yeah. But I don't say no.
Yeah.
It's been amazing. I've been happier. A lot of people think like, oh, roid rage, you're gonna get all mad. Like, I've been happier since I've been on this shit. I feel good.
The thing is, when it comes to that, now Nick is hitting a point that is very important because of what people associate with taking testosterone or steroids. If you do a cycle, and you don't manage it right, that's why I'm saying.
What do you mean by a cycle?
A cycle meaning you take
10 weeks is usually a jar, correct?
Well, yeah. So if you take a block of 12 weeks, 3 months, you throw some tablets in there. Mm-hmm. You take sustanin and something else. We'll say Deca. Everybody's familiar with Deca. If you take that for a cycle, then if you don't plan it out right, that's why you're taking sustanin twice a week. Mm-hmm. Perfect. You're planning it up so it keeps it stable. If you're a dick, you have mood problems, or mental issues, and you take a lot of something and you don't manage the ups and downs, mm-hmm. you could have issues. So that's why it's important that you know what you're doing. But it sounds like whoever said, "Hey man, take it twice a week. Don't take one big jab." Mm-hmm.
These guys have been taking it for 15 plus years.
Yeah.
So they know a lot more than I do.
Yeah.
And so they're like, listen, this is what we need to do. And I'm still going to the VA. I'm getting my blood checked. They've even noticed, like, wow, your testosterone's up. What are you doing? Like, I went outside the VA to get some help. Mm-hmm. I was like, you guys won't help me, so I'm getting help elsewhere.
Yeah.
And they can't do anything about it, right? Initially I went to a TRT clinic, but it was going to be like
exorbitant amount because they're trying to take advantage. They're trying to take advantage of this need.
It's me $200 a month. Now I pay
$20 a month.
No, it's like 65.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's not even a month though. That's for 10 weeks. So technically, it's $34 a month or so, mm-hmm. which is pretty good. Mm-hmm. If you ask me. Do not order from steroidwarehouse.com. All right.
Yeah, there's some.
Good God, do not order from steroidwarehouse.com. Their $250 sustanon, I'm pretty sure was just nothing.
Yeah.
So for the last 2 months, I've lost 6 pounds, and I'm not working out as much, but I'm still working out at least 2, sometimes 3 times a week, and I've lost some size.
Los Campeones.
Yeah, I go to St. Paul. I love that gym.
Oh my God.
And the thing is too is people think, oh, people who do steroids are fucking blah blah blah. I'm like, listen, I'm doing this because my mental health is fucked, and I was struggling emotionally, physically, in many different ways. I lost a testicle. I'm having a lot of issues with production of testosterone now. It's not keeping up to where I need it. And so I decided to go the medical route and do what I think I should be able to do for myself. It's the same thing with the whole abortion aspect. I don't want to get off onto that, but I don't think anyone should tell anybody what they can and can't do. I don't want to pay for I'm just going to leave it at that. I don't think anyone should tell somebody else what they can and can't do.
Yeah. And this is something that's, I think most people, it's harder to find a common ground on because it's such a wide spectrum. But for me, I think the same way, but at the same time, responsibility and accountability.
Yep.
Now, if you have one of those situations where
are what you are doing affecting somebody else? And that's what I like to ask somebody. Is what I'm doing affecting anybody?
Yeah, and that's where it's tricky because the birth of a child, if you're ending that possibility, you're really affecting somebody.
And that's where abortion is a whole nother fucking.
Yeah, it's a wide. We'll maybe do another video another time.
Yeah.
But my thought is, for me personally, it's I think the same way, but at the same time, it's responsible. Don't wait till month 8 or 9 when your boyfriend leaves you or your husband leaves you, and you're like, well, I can't do this on my own. Then you give it up for that reason. I think responsibility, execution of what you want to get done.
I think morally, that's a very difficult subject
It
because
is.
I can generally see both sides of the story.
Me too.
I could see usually conservative Christian, usually that's what it is, not always, and then usually liberal left, saying that we should be able to get as many as we want, right? I personally, whether I think it's wrong or not, I'm never going to tell somebody what they can and can't do with their own body. However,
Yeah.
there's that moral line. Like anybody who says abortion is a black and white, that's not true. It's
No,
gray.
it's
It's
not.
very, very gray.
That's why it's so sensitive to
Mhm.
talk about it.
And I understand why conservative. We're just going to say conservative and liberal. That's
Yeah.
usually where it's
Easiest way to.
So conservative, I understand where they're coming from. That's a baby, that's a life, everything like that. Yes, if that stays in there long enough, that will be birthed into a baby.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And that's usually you can't say anything against that.
Yeah.
Right? Liberal left, nobody should tell me what to do with my body. I agree.
Yeah.
Right? And that's where I am stuck in that gray area. Where is the wrong? Is it killing a baby, or is it right? What's it called? Right to self, or I can't remember what the name is. Self-preservation or whatever. So I am the leader of my domain.
Yeah.
Right? A woman is the leader of her domain.
Mhm.
We are the ones that should choose. But to be honest, to go to the comedy side, Dave Chappelle said it best. Right? My money, my choice. Right? If you want to get rid of the baby, I should be able to abandon it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think both are wrong.
It's tricky to put in that perspective, but yeah, that it's a wide spectrum. I mean, we could do 2 hours on that, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
But
And that's a hard thing. It's just because it's so polarized and people get so angry. And I could talk about either side. My superpower is being able to play devil's advocate without getting upset. Perspective and empathy.
And you get that from understanding.
Mhm.
And that's like you understand both sides. And you
Yeah.
can say, well, this side has a point, and that's going to the ends of the spectrum, not the middle.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people can find the middle ground and be okay, I get it.
Many people can. The majority, I've met thousands and thousands of people over the last 2 years.
Yeah. I
And
think a lot of the problem with
most people
society
are
is people want to make up their mind and be hardcore about it, where they're polarized. We talk about polarization,
Mm-hmm.
where they don't want to be in the middle. They want to make a stand and pat themselves on the back for whatever they believe. Whether they're standing up for babies' rights or they're standing up for personal rights, my body, my choice. They want to pat themselves on the back for it like they're a good person. But see, the thing is that you touched on, it's not going to affect your life, right? So if it's your personal choice, it's going to affect your life.
Mm-hmm.
So then it holds a lot more weight when we look at it like that. So it's hard for an outsider to debate. But understanding each other's perspective, that's a great place to start instead of being so polarized.
And that's why I think nobody should give anybody shit if they choose to take steroids. Right? If they're trying to get into a competition and lying, yeah, that's one thing. You're a dick. Right?
Yeah, I hate that.
But if I'm just trying to better my life and taking advantage of my negative situation,
Mhm.
and that's what I've told everybody. I've openly told everybody. I have no issue talking about the fact that I'm taking testosterone. I'm taking testosterone replacement because I had testicular cancer. Right? What are you going to say to me? Right? You going to talk shit to me?
Yeah.
Like, fuck you.
I broke my leg. I got crutches. You got a problem?
Take your crutches off, you fucking cheater.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, I'm taking it because I had something happen to me that I cannot control.
Mhm.
And now it's to the point where I'm taking Sustanon. Am I taking more than I probably should? Probably. But I feel fucking great.
Yeah.
I feel amazing. I'm way bigger than I've ever been. Like, it's hard to tell right now, but I don't have a fucking big old stomach anymore.
Yeah.
It's not six pack because I like pizza and I like ribs and I like beer occasionally.
Ribs.
But it's gotten to the point where, like, I'm happy with my choices, and my choices don't negatively affect anybody unless they choose to.
Yeah, and that's the thing where I think when I didn't really get into politics until like 2015.
Mm-hmm.
I would explain those reasons on a different video, but the libertarian side of things, just let me do my shit.
Leave me alone.
I'm not hurting anybody, so let it be that way.
I wouldn't call myself a libertarian, but maybe more of an independent. I don't know. I don't like to identify as something.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Stay fluid.
Well, that's why I said, like, my thoughts and my political ideas are, I just want to smoke weed and carry a gun, take some testosterone at my gay friend's wedding.
Yeah.
I added that last. Take some testosterone.
I
It's like, just leave me alone.
Yeah.
What I'm doing isn't hurting anybody. Me carrying a gun is not hurting anybody. I'm a good guy.
Mhm.
I love people. All I wanted to defend people. I was a cop. I was in law enforcement for 16 fucking years. If there's anybody you want carrying a gun, it's probably me.
Yeah.
You know, or other guys among me. You know.
I did a post before I got into, doing the podcast for Men of Values and stuff on Facebook, because I've always had these thoughts. I just never shared them, but I did on Facebook one time. I think I said, if it's the end of the world and we're all going to die tomorrow, I'm going to sit on the roof with a gay, Muslim. I rattled off the whole list. Sharing a beer, reflecting on the world, because humanity is the most important thing. Then we can make it a little closer and say it's being American.
Yeah.
Is humanity, being American, and that's our tribe. Loose tribe, the way it is
and
right
most Americans would agree that anybody who's come here and gotten their citizenship and actually wants this country to thrive is an American.
Yeah.
You know, I don't care if you're an immigrant. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, there's a mindset and there's a piece of paper.
I created an immigrant.
Hey, there you go, right there. Exactly.
You know, making the best out of a tragedy. I'm just saying. But I think that one of the biggest problems is there's so many people that are so focused on being a part of a certain tribe, not realizing that they're closing themselves off from all of these other amazing people. Like, can you believe people hate Jordan Peterson?
No.
Like, I understand why some trans people hate him. Like, I get their explanation.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I still don't think that they're seeing his point of view. They're
That's
just getting mad.
The reason why Jordan Peterson is a hero for me is because how he explains himself.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we can get in a debate with somebody that disagrees with us. They can get emotional and not back up what they say. That bothers me. Because if you're passionate about it, you should know enough to be able to back up what you say.
Yeah, without screaming, too.
Jordan Peterson knows so much. He's so intelligent that he can slow down, let the other person say what they're going to say, and then hit with research, facts, and about 8 different points that backs up his belief. It's hard to debate that. You don't have to agree with it, but he allows you to understand it. He gives you an avenue to understand it. And that's what these conversations are about, is being able to understand somebody that has that disagrees with you, and that's where these conversations have huge value. Again, it doesn't mean you have to agree with them, but like you're talking about when you talk to people about abortion, it's like, okay, well, I get your point. I'm not saying I agree with it totally, but I understand what you're saying now because you explained it, because you're passionate about it. My problem is nowadays we have too many people that jump right into the disagreement and shut it down with emotion and don't try to understand the other side.
I always try to tell people that try to lead with asking questions and listening.
Yeah.
If you seriously disagree with somebody, I always tell people, like, give them a chance to at least not sway your reasoning or change your mind, but maybe just help you understand why they think that way. Yeah. If you still disagree at the end of the day,
that's fine.
We disagree. It's all good.
The thing that I thought to keep those conversations or to initiate those conversations to be able to happen in the first place is when you find something getting a little sensitive for yourself, you see the person you're talking to get a little sensitive, back away for a second and find something you can agree on first.
Yeah.
Some commonality first and build a conversation from there. That way it's like, okay, your guard's down. You said, okay, I can agree with you. And then you can build a conversation from there, which might equate to understanding an opposing view. Mm-hmm. And if we get more towards that instead of shutting each other down, we'd have a much happier society. And that doesn't mean I'm going to get you to agree with me on something.
Yeah.
It means you're going to be open to understand why I feel the way I do. Not to be okay with it, that's fine too, but to understand is a huge part.
Yeah.
Then we have more harmony. Harmony.
I mean, that's the best way to explain it, I think. I think people just need to be more open to hearing other arguments rather than just arguing to argue.
Yeah.
Like I'm not, there's no hill I'm willing to die on. None.
Yeah.
I will sit and talk to you about something, but I'm not going to die on any hill.
No. Okay.
I'm to the point, it's not that important to me.
Yeah. And the thing is, another aspect of exactly what you're saying is, I think, the energy you put into a conversation, if it turns you negative and zaps your energy, why bother with it?
Yeah, it's no point.
Half
the time that's why I was like, oh, okay. I'll just shake my head and like, oh, wow.
Best way to do it.
Amazing. And I try to tell people too, I was having some arguments with some folks the other day and it was a friendly argument, but at the same time, everything we're talking about is just all they were doing is trying to win. Which, like, dude, are you trying to have a conversation? Or are you trying to win the argument?
Yeah.
Like, right now, I'm not arguing with you. I'm just trying to have a conversation. I was like, you are trying to win, right? There's nothing to gain from that. Nothing.
Exactly.
Like, I'm a friend. I truly love you as a human being, right? I'm having this conversation with you because I want to hear your point of view. And all you're trying to do is take every single fact that I'm throwing at you and trying to disprove it rather than just going, huh. And so one thing that I try to tell a lot of people, if you tend to be an argumentative person, everyone should at least try to say, like, huh, I'll have to think about that. You know, that's interesting. I've never thought about that.
Yeah.
I'll think about it. You know, instead of going straight to arguing, just give them that, give that person the satisfaction. If you want to be civil, give that person the satisfaction. Go, oh, I'll think about that. You know, and if that person's full of shit, walk away and just throw away what he said.
That's
sometimes you don't have to argue.
Yeah.
You know,
and then you didn't burn any energy. You walk away peaceful. That's one thing where everybody wants to have their moral compass. It doesn't mean shit if you don't bring your bullshit meter with it. You know what I'm saying? So it doesn't mean you have to discount anything that somebody says. But again, if they're saying statements and not backing them up with something, well, then you're in a situation where somebody just wants to win and be right. Yeah. Not that they want to understand or go back and forth and have a good conversation. So that's a good situation to walk away from.
You got to know the time to just walk away too.
Yeah.
You know, like I've literally just walked out of the room from conversations. There's no point.
Yeah.
You know, and there's a lot of veterans out there that are very, very liberal. And I tend to not agree with a lot of very, very liberal people. Not that I think that they're wrong. I think that we just have different understanding of the world and we just don't agree. And sometimes it is not worth my energy talking to that person. There's some conservative veterans that are a little too hardcore right for me.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, that's just not, it's not really what I'm trying to do right now. Right. So I'll just walk away. That's it. Like, I don't tell them that they're wrong. I don't tell them that, like, I don't want to be friends with you anymore.
Yeah.
I just don't want to be a part of this conversation.
Yeah. And the thing is, if somebody vehemently disagrees with you on a hot topic, you should find a still way to maintain a relationship, because good friends are hard to find.
Oh, for sure.
If you got one or two topics you disagree on, but that's a good friend of yours, don't shut it down, man. Maybe you get to the point where you just don't talk about that one or two things.
Well, and I think that's where COVID was such a big divider of the country. And I never would delete somebody from Facebook, right? So Facebook is artificial. That's not real, right? Facebook is artificial. I don't think anybody is actually friends on Facebook. I've met a lot of people I met on Facebook, like in my travels, that I am friends with, right? But we are not friends until we meet each other face to face. There's people that I still haven't met yet that I do consider friends, but I've never met them. I need human interaction to actually be friends with somebody and consider them a close friend of mine. I've done podcasts with multiple veterans who I call them brother. I tell them that I love them, and I've never met them, right? But eventually one day when I meet them, I assume it's going to be just fine. So I kind of forgot what I was going there with this one.
I do it all the time, but that's the freestyle conversation, man. It totally is.
But no, it's just like you got to stop and think, like, you know, you have to pick and choose the company that you surround yourself with. You know, not really where I was just going there, but, you know, we'll take it somewhere. Is the people that you're very close with, you don't have to be friends on fucking Facebook if you're friends with them. There's a couple people that I'm not friends with on Facebook, but I still consider friends. Yeah. Because they're very, very liberal, and I'm not. I'm not conservative. I'm not liberal. I'm kind of wherever I want to be for that situation.
I'm fluent with the issues. I
for sure.
Slide to side. What was I saying? The libertarian thing, like you were saying, just let me do my thing. I'm not hurting anybody, and let's have it be that way.
Exactly.
That's
why do you have to stand so firm on a fucking subject that you probably don't really care that much about?
Yeah. A lot of people get passionately upset about things that actually don't affect them because they want to pat themselves on the back because they're the savior for some other group.
Do you know who Andrew Schultz is?
Oh, yeah.
Comedian?
Oh, God.
Did you watch his last special? It's on YouTube now. You should watch it.
I did, and I fell asleep in the middle.
it's so watch it again. It's great. There's a part where he's like, yeah, you know, I'm engaged to a white woman. She's like, you know, hey, I'm bored. Let's fix something. Like that's like that is like that's an amazing description of the way world works.
It is. And if it steers away from that a second and talks about men and female or men and women, is the personal accountability.
Yeah.
Anybody that's screaming about some other group or something that they're standing up for, check your own house first. You know what I'm saying? Because you're trying to fight to fix somebody else's problem that you don't associate with day to day. I understand being passionate about certain issues, but if you're putting all the energy into that, not taking a look at yourself first, or your family, or your personal relationships, or your work relationship, if that's all shit, your credit shit, your financial situation is shit, why are you focusing on something else? Build yourself up stronger first, so you're a better representative of the cause that you choose to be associated with.
So sometimes people do that because there's actual science behind why some people will take all of their bullshit and set it aside and focus on somebody else. Is because sometimes their own shit is so overwhelming, it's depressing. It gets them to the point where it drives them down in the dirt.
I get that.
And with what I do with my nonprofit, is I still, you know, a lot of what I do is sometimes because I'm overwhelmed.
Yeah.
When I'm overwhelmed with something in my personal life, I will focus on finding somebody else that needs help, right? But the difference is, a lot of these activist groups and shit, they don't fucking do anything, right? They just go out and make noise. Right. And so what I have the ability to do with what I've created is I actually get to look for a problem and I get to fix it right then and there, because people give me money to do nice things for other people. Right. Like I've built ramps for people who, there was one person who his wife had a stroke and he's a veteran and he couldn't bring his wife home because they didn't have a wheelchair ramp. And so they refused to let her come home. And so I'm like, okay, so he went and got a bid. They were going to charge him $1,500 for a fucking 14-foot ramp. Jeez. Right? Just nothing, just a ramp, regular wheelchair ramp. So I'm like, all right, I got this. So I went to Home Depot. I'm like, hey, you know, I got a veteran of mine. You know, we need to build a wheelchair ramp for him. His wife had a stroke and she can't come home until we get this done. And I'm like, you know, we're buying all these products and everything like that. Is there anything you can do, right? If they gave me a $5 discount, I would be like, thank you. That's awesome, right? Because we had the money to pay for it, right? Through the nonprofit. So it was like $385 or some shit. They gave us a $99 discount. Wow. So we go back the next day. We started it that day. The next day we come back and finish it. And we end up taking a day and a half. Cost us $3.99, right? Man. So it's like there's some people that are talkers and there's some people that are doers. Yeah. And so I've been a doer my whole life. But I've finally gotten to the point where I found like a good medium where it's like I can be a talker and a doer at the same time. Mm-hmm. Like the motivational speaking, that's the talking. And then the doing is quite literally taking people and pulling them out of their house, physically pulling guns out of their hands, which I've done multiple times now. Yeah. Which is like, it really fucks with your mental state, right? But my main thing is like, people ask me all the time, how do you come down from that, right? Because that's a big mental shock to be in the room with somebody when they're physically attempting suicide. Yeah. You know, and then you physically take a weapon that could kill you easily and you just take it away from them. And next thing you know, that person is looking at you like, help me. Right? That there's no better fucking, like, what's the word I'm looking for? There's no better superpower that I've ever felt than actually taking somebody out of a dark spot like that. Right? And so it's like, you know, all these people that talk about doing something, go actually do something once. I'm not saying go take a gun on somebody saying it's suicide. Don't do that. I'm trained. Yeah. I'm very good at what I do. I've had a lot of training in the military. I was a cop. I was also a crisis intervention, you know, with the state patrol as a 911 dispatcher. I have a lot of training in everything I do. Don't do that, right? But call somebody who's struggling, right? Instead of fucking going out and holding a sign. Which protesting is our First Amendment right. It is. Go do it. If you want to do it, that makes you happy, good for you. If you really want to make an impact, find somebody that is actually struggling with that exact thing that you're worried about. I'm worried about veteran suicide, so I started a suicide hotline because I'm fucking tired of people killing themselves. Yeah. I personally attempted suicide, which we didn't talk about in the last one.
That's right.
You know, got to the point my whole life was just overwhelming. You know, and I ended up putting a gun to my head and pulled the trigger back in 2015, and the gun didn't go off. And it's like, why am I still here? And that's the question I've been trying to solve for years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and Mark was my first phone call. You know, oh, he's my second. My first one was to my wife to tell her I want a divorce. The second one was to Mark, say, hey, I want to go to Brazil with you. And
yeah. I remember that.
We were in Brazil a month and a half later.
Nice.
So it's like, I reached out to my tribe and said, hey, like, I need to get my shit together. And finally, once I found out that, you know, there's a lot of stories that lead up to me wanting to help veterans, but once I realized that veteran suicide is my fight,
mm-hmm.
I started to figure out, like, how can I actually stop this?
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes protesting helps, right? But
awareness.
Yeah, awareness is a good thing, right? But action is so much more satisfying.
Yeah. And like we were talking about before we started the camera, is like sometimes if you have an idea, you know, an idea that you hadn't put into action,
Mm-hmm.
And you want people to become invested in you to help you out with your situation, that's one thing. Like I was referring to people want me to train them, you know, to work out or help them with their diet after New Year's hit, their resolution to help them out. I'd give them an assignment to take care of. So, okay, well, you want that here, do this first, so we got someplace to go with the plan. And most people don't do it because they don't want to invest in it. Now, if we talk about that ramp that you did, right, you came up, you said, I got a plan, I'm going to do this. Is there anything that you can help? That's a situation where they make a choice, like, yeah, that's a damn good idea. You're doing the work, I want to help you out with it. You know, so that's investing in it and not just asking for a fix.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think I went off on a tangent there.
No, I think we can all invest in a fix. I think we're all too focused on superficial things that don't actually change anything. Like, I don't want to get off on government shit, but government change almost doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
It's people making waves.
I totally agree.
You know, like, say what you want about Black Lives Matter, right? Look at the amount of change that they enacted, right? I am not for burning people's personal property.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not for physically assaulting other people. And all of the other negative shit that happened within Black Lives Matter, Antifa, the Proud Boys, all of those groups that can be kind of lumped fairly in the same group, right? I don't want to piss anybody off, but like there's a lot of those people that essentially turn into groups where they cause physical harm.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to go that way.
Yeah,
right?
I agree.
A lot of good can be done by having good conversations with the right people,
mm-hmm.
right? The problem is, who do we talk to?
That's
right? You know, there's senators that you can reach out to. Every one of you has a senator that you can reach out to and talk to. And if you actually want to invoke change, which keep plugging my company, if you want to invoke change in the world, like, you got to find the right people to talk to. Find out who your senator is. Write to your senator. I've actually talked to my senator about some veteran suicide issues.
Yeah.
Not a lot of great has come out of it, but it was at least a conversation, right? So it's the direct person who's going to write legislation and make the change.
Yeah.
Burning a fucking building with children inside of it, that's not okay.
Yeah.
I would never, and I've lost a lot of friends because of BLM and some of the fires and the riots and all that shit. I was working at the Minnesota State Patrol during all that. I coordinated the majority of the riots and shit in the Minneapolis area during the George Floyd riots. I was one of the main guys getting State Patrol out on the highway to stop them from going on the highway. It was rough. You know, at the same time, I saw a lot of really, really good people out in those crowds.
Mm-hmm.
There was actually an incident that, if you don't know about this, there's videos everywhere. I was on dispatch one day, and it was during one of the giant protests off of 35W Bridge in Minneapolis. If you Google 35W George Floyd incident, what had happened was they were shutting down the highway, right? So this group had actually talked to DOT and said, hey, we're taking the highway. Stop the fucking traffic, right?
Yeah.
So DOT, say whether they should have done this or not, that's not up for me to decide. DOT said, okay, we don't want people to get hurt,
yeah.
so we're going to close down traffic lanes. Okay, I get it. Nothing wrong with that, right? I shouldn't say that. I understand. They were looking out for human life. There's going to be humans on the highway. It's better to just shut it down.
Yeah.
So they were shutting down the highways, and a semi truck
I seen that.
came through. Right.
Yeah.
I was working that day. I was watching on the helicopter footage. I watched this truck go over the hill and almost destroy thousands of people.
Yeah.
Right. Now, what a lot of people don't understand is the roads were not properly shut down. This guy was flying. He was going about 70 miles an hour, which is, well, it's 55 down there, but most people go about 70. It's really hard to slow down at that aspect, but at the same time, he probably could have slowed down well before he hit the crowd. But put yourself in his shoes. You literally run into a giant mob. You think, like, I'm dead. Right?
The thing, he was in law enforcement with the state patrol, and I'm in transportation. So understanding how fast, if you're going 70 with a big rig like that loaded up,
it's really hard to stop.
What, 80 grand? You know,
it's probably around there.
Even if you got good brakes, if he's fully loaded, you cannot stop that fast. So it's just
it's about a quarter mile or so.
Yeah, so which he could have been a little more aggressive.
Could have slowed down, could have went faster, I don't know. But either way.
He could have been checking his Facebook too.
Yeah, he could have been not paying attention, right? Because truck drivers don't pay attention all the time.
All the time.
But what ended up happening was what everybody sees isn't exactly what happened.
And the headlines are set up to make you feel a certain way.
Exactly. And so everybody saw truck driver tries to run over people. And then the right wing ones are like, oh, a mob pulls a guy out of a truck, right? So what actually happened was this guy, whatever his reason was, whatever happened, this is what actually happened. The guy was going and eventually stopped in the middle of the mob.
Mm-hmm.
The mob smashed his windshield. They smashed his door. They pulled him out of the windshield, pulled him out of his semi onto the ground, and proceeded to beat the living shit out of him. However, there was just amount of good people trying to protect him because they knew that the police were going to come in and arrest him, which, granted, should have probably happened, right?
Yeah.
So there was just amount of good people protecting this guy as there was trying to hurt him. They were trying to throw him off the bridge, and if these few guys weren't there trying to protect him, that guy would have died that day. And then some fucking testosterone-filled gangster of a Minneapolis police officer, right? I don't care what you think about the police. This guy's a fucking superhero.
Yeah.
This fucking truck runs in the wrong way down the highway, comes flying in, and one guy fights off a crowd of fucking 3,000 fucking people. And with a baton.
Ooh.
It's just going like this, protecting everyone. And everyone slowly comes up. People are rushing him. He's swinging at people, and everyone's backing up just to try to save this guy's life. Whether this guy was wrong or not, he didn't deserve to die.
Yeah.
You know, nobody got hit. Nobody got hurt. If he would have killed a bunch of people, if they stopped him, he still deserved his time in court, right?
Yeah.
And we have a judicial system that says we will, guilty until proven innocent, right? We don't know what happened. He could have a seizure. What happens if he had a seizure going through? Now, I likely believe that guy knew what the fuck he was doing. Probably.
Yeah.
Right? But I don't know. So
yeah. That's the thing is not knowing, but then once the media grabs it and they tell you how to feel about it, that's where the problems come in. So you shared a lot of facts that maybe I didn't even know, I don't remember about this.
Bro, watching that, dude, that guy was a gangster.
Yeah.
Like, fucking legit badass.
And he didn't pull out a gun, he used a baton. Now, how gangster.
Watching that on the helicopter with my lieutenant behind me.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say who it was, but my lieutenant was literally standing behind me, grabbing my shoulders, like, oh my God, they're going to kill that guy. Oh my God, he's going to die. I'm like, LT, calm down. Like, just calm down. There's nothing we can do. It'll get figured out. She's like, oh my God. Oh my God. I'm like, calm down, LT. We'll be fine. Like, we're okay, right? That guy, I don't know.
We'll see.
But hopefully something happens and this fucking hero of a cop comes out to save this guy's life.
That's
like
crazy.
That guy, there's one cop I want to meet, it's that guy.
Yeah.
Because he risked his life to save another.
Yeah.
Whether that guy was right or wrong, I'm not saying anything on any. I don't want to take anyone's side. I'm just saying what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. But either way, that the whole arguments between BLM and like old friends from the military too unfriended me, calling me a racist and shit, just because like slight disagreements.
The thing is, when we talk about that separation, which is coming from like military, like your base tribe, people are so easy to throw that shit away based off of what information they took in. One of the things that I do in conversations when I talk with people, especially people that are closer, is like, okay, what do you take in blended news sources? Right?
Yeah.
Opposing news sources?
Not a lot. I don't really watch the news.
I for a while there, when I was laid off, I took in a ton of stuff. And that's when I realized I could understand somebody's point of view being completely different from mine if they had one sole news source. And that's where I was like, well, wait a second. What they're putting out there is completely different from what this news source is putting out. If you take the 2 of them, 3 of them, 4 of them, 8 of them, and apply some common sense, then you might have a better understanding of the big picture.
Especially if you're talking to someone who just listens to CNN or just listens to Fox News. They're polar opposites.
That's the point I keep talking about.
It's crazy.
It's like if either one you take, they're gonna tell you how you need to feel because they sensationalize the headlines, emotionalize the headlines.
Well, they went away from telling us what happened to telling us how we should feel about what happened.
Yeah. You're how old are you? 40?
30, 34.
Gee.
35. I'll be 35 next month.
Overshot you a little bit. I'm bad at judging age. But back in the day, it used to just be reading the news.
Yeah,
And
today
no
this
emotional,
happened.
just give you
It
the
was
facts.
terrible.
Yeah,
That sucks.
every once in a while they would slow it and deepen their voice if it was tragic. But that was about it. There was no telling you how to feel, no tying emotion to it.
This should make you angry. You should go out in the streets.
Yeah.
Like, and then you got politicians telling people to burn buildings down and fucking...
Inciting.
That's insane.
Yeah.
And again, I hate really talking about politics because somebody's going to get mad no matter what you talk about. But at the same time...
I've done plenty of videos on it, and that's why I want to keep the subscription low. I get some bad comments sometimes, but it's I say my point of view, and the whole point is to generate conversation. And I have open avenues to reach out to me.
I'd gladly have anybody email me, ask me for my phone number, I'll give it to you, and let's have a conversation.
Yeah.
I love conversation. That's the one thing I've noticed in life that I actually truly love.
Mm-hmm.
I love human-to-human conversation, even if it's somebody I disagree with.
Yeah.
I'm not going to belittle anybody or anything like that. Unless you come at me and try to make me feel like an asshole, like come off being a douche, I'm not going to waste my time.
Yeah.
But if you say, hey, I watched your podcast and I disagree with a couple of things, I want to talk to you about it. Sure.
Right there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, let's go.
I would totally take time out of my day.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I have only mentioned that we can have a phone conversation, but I tie a separate email so you can contact me, and that can lead to anything. But my personal phone number, though, I do think...
Is it the same one for your OnlyFans?
I do think I would get a separate phone if there was somebody that I was really inspired to talk to, because I do want to keep those things separate.
Sure.
But like you're saying, having a conversation, connecting with a complete stranger on something you disagree on, not trying to change their mind, but to garner a little understanding.
Maybe even just trying to help them understand your point of view and just helping them understand your point of view.
Yeah.
Not trying to sway them, right? Like Steven Crowder does Change My Mind.
Yeah.
Which I actually think there's some pretty constructive conversations going on.
He's got that whole book with all the facts.
Yeah, and he's like, here, look.
The way he presents it. So, well, do you feel,
He can be a little belittling sometimes.
Yeah, he is.
But he's also a comedian. That's one thing that people forget. He's a fucking comedian.
It's probably why he's easier to watch for me.
Yeah.
Because he does slide some shit in there sometimes.
Yeah, and I love, there's nothing I love more than comedy.
Yeah.
Like I was telling you before we started recording, like, motivational speaking is not, like, that's not my end game.
Main aspiration.
I love motivational speaking.
50,000 people laugh instead of...
Yeah, exactly. Like, I can go in and move a room. I think the most I've had was 2,500 people. I can go inside of a room of people and I can see people physically crying because of the conversation I'm pushing at them.
What you're touching on.
Yeah. And I see these people getting moved. That feeling of moving a crowd, there's nothing that feels better, right? But the one thing that intrigues me more is going in front of a room full of, like, I went and saw Bill Burr in Minneapolis the other day.
I love Bill Burr.
Oh my God, is he hilarious. His new special is going to be amazing.
Yeah.
He's got a new movie coming out called Old Dads.
I heard about that. They
It
showed
sounds
a clip,
so
right?
fucking funny.
I heard they showed a clip.
If you can Google the shit. But anyway, so, like, that's the first time I need to visualize something for it to really happen. Everything that I've done, I've visualized, and I've sat down and said, I'm going to do that.
Visualization.
And not one person can tell me I'm not going to, because once I decide I'm going to do that, and I've already decided I'm going to be a successful comedian. It's going to happen. You know, whether the time, I don't know what the time frame is. I don't have a time frame. I'm not sure. I'm going to have 49 days to think about it on the ocean.
Oh, yeah, out on the ocean.
So it's like, you know, I already have probably 40 minutes of material. It's just I'm too chicken shit to actually go to a comedy club and sit down.
But he's okay to roll across the ocean, guys. Right?
Yeah, it's different.
It's a different fear set, and I have complete confidence in you that you're going to move towards that and be successful.
Well, the thing is, like, all the things that I do, it's my physical ability. It's me doing it, right?
Yeah.
The difference is when you go out as a comedian, it's up to them to laugh.
Yes, it is.
Right. I'm supposed to say the things that I need to say to make them laugh, but if what I say is not good enough for them, they just sit there. Whereas, like, I can row across the ocean because it's literally physically me
just
doing it.
Yeah.
You know, it's me and 3 other guys. So I have a rowing partner, and then we have 2 guys sleeping, and then we switch every 2 hours for 49 days. But, like, it's me physically doing the work, and I believe in myself.
You can trust on yourself to handle your shit.
Yeah.
But with comedy, it's a little bit different.
You got to rely on the crowd to laugh at you.
This is the thing that really brings me back. I love Bill Burr in Philadelphia.
Oh my God, that was the best clip. Go watch that clip. If you're not a fan of comedy and you're thinking about watching some comedy, go watch Bill Burr Philadelphia Rant.
Yeah, Philadelphia Rant.
Shit.
He goes off, and he was looking at the time he had left. Just a brief explanation. The crowd is in Philadelphia is known to be a little bit rough. And there's a couple comedians that went on before, and they just got roasted. They had a bad time. They bombed, whatever you want to call it. Bill Burr's like, this is bullshit. You know, if you know Bill Burr, the way he does things, and he goes out there, he starts out a little bit, but then he's getting some bad reaction. He's like, hey, fuck this. And he starts cutting down the crowd so damn hard.
It was like 12 minutes of just berating the audience.
Like, up, 5 minutes left. Here we go. And he just freestyle going on to thing. And it was hilarious.
Your favorite fucking mascot is a guy from a fucking movie. He's like, talking with the Rocky statue. He's like, you don't even know real fucking people. Yeah. It's a guy from a movie. You fucking idiots. He's like, I hope you all get cancer. Yeah. Like, just going off on
So he wasn't saying what the crowd liked. He wasn't banking on getting a good response. He's like, hey, fuck it. And he just went on what he knows, and he did a fine job. By the end of it, he had the crowd won over.
And that is really what launched his career.
Yeah.
He was already a good comedian.
Yeah.
I already liked him by then. But once he did that, like, everyone starts laughing hysterically. And he says at the end, he's like, listen, fuck you guys, but hey, thanks for coming out and everything, blah, blah, blah. And then at the end, everyone's just clapping and screaming. Finish. It's like, man.
The one thing I like about that, and the freestyle ability. I mean, you could write awesome jokes and everything, but if you're in that situation, you come off that good, that's amazing, natural comedian. Yeah. It's just...
Well, especially, I think that's why I like Andrew Schultz so much, because he does so much
freestyle.
Yeah,
and he just starts dealing with the crowd and getting them involved.
I like the part where he's like, hey, is that your girl? He's like, yeah. She's like, she Latina? Like, yeah. You using protection? Like, be careful. You come in her chest, her stomach just sucks that in. Next thing you know, she's pregnant. Yeah. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah. The thing, like, comedians like that, which I love and embrace when it comes time for me to watch some stand-up comedy, is they're not afraid. Like, Bill Burr was not afraid of offending anybody. In fact, he took extra steps to try to in a humorous way.
Yeah.
I tie that into seeing that made me feel so good, because that's like everything that we do nowadays. We feel it's going to be criticized or cut down or demonized. Yeah. He didn't give a shit. And again, that's part of the reason why.
That's pure freedom.
Yeah. To not
pure freedom.
I mean, you hold yourself accountable, but you say what you want to say.
Yeah. And you can back it up, because I think the beauty of comedy is your intent is to make people laugh. Your intent is not to offend people.
It's not malicious.
No, and Ricky Gervais actually does the best at explaining it. It's like, listen, you're choosing to get offended, right? If you say that comedian's not funny, like, no, you don't find him funny. He's funny to many, many people, thousands and thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people. Yeah. You just don't find him funny, right? And so we have to start thinking about a lot of different things in life in that aspect. Just because I don't like this doesn't mean it's not okay.
It wasn't put out there to offend you or for you to like it or not like it. It was
just
found
it offensive.
Yeah. And that's okay too.
Sometimes there's a lot of things that I watch. I'm like, this is very offensive, and I don't like it. But I'll continue to watch it. When I'm done, I'm like, meh, it's not for me. I'll move on.
And just move on.
I don't fucking try to find the person who made it. Like,
Shut it down.
Cancel this person.
Yeah.
He made me sad.
I feel personally aggressed, and you were malicious in your ways. No. And that's the thing. I think intent with a lot of this stuff is a huge part of it. And I think that's easy for somebody that's halfway logical to read is what is the intent?
Yeah.
Like you're hanging out with your guys, or like Bill Burr didn't have malicious intent. He's like, he took a different approach, which is awesome. But like, you can talk crap with your guys, you can give them all kinds of shit. Maybe there's some things that might be a hot button you should be staying away from.
Sure.
But you can talk shit to your guy friends and everything is fine and fair because they know that there's no malicious intent.
Your goal is to make them laugh.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why I always tell people, I will never apologize for something I said. Ever. Now, if you get offended by something I say, I will look at you and say, hey, I'm sorry you're offended.
That's
I'm not
a good way to put it.
I'm not going to apologize for what I said, though.
Not sorry for saying it, but I'm sorry you're offended.
99.9% of the things I say are quite literally to inspire or make somebody better, right? Sometimes laughter is enough for it's enough to make you realize whatever situation I'm talking about, if I throw some humor in with it, though it may be offensive or harsh,
more palatable.
The point of what I said is to quite literally make you laugh, to take in the information better.
Yeah.
If you get offended, I'm sorry you're offended, but I'm not sorry for what I said.
A little humor, kind of opens up the gate a little bit for something important to seek through.
So I just tell people, humor is the lube to healing.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's a good point to wrap right there because you touched on the first episode. You got a lot going on. Is there things that you want to mention, plug? I mean, you got a lot of things going on that maybe...
So if you want to follow us across the ocean, you can go to Fight or Die on Facebook. There's a group called Fight or Die, OAR, and that's the organization that we're rowing for. You can go to usvetrow.org or warriorsnextadventure.com. That's the nonprofit that I run, help with suicide prevention. And then Invoke Change is the LLC that I run that we do all of our motivational speaking through. Everything is just kind of follow us on Facebook, Instagram. Everything is Warriors Next Adventure. For my good friends, you'll find my personal. It's pretty easy to find, but I don't really deny people from following the stuff that we do. Everything we do is with the intent to somehow motivate people. Sometimes just to bring a laugh. If you look at my Facebook stories, they're all just goofy videos from TikTok. I have certain platforms for certain things. My stories on Facebook are just to make people laugh.
Yeah.
My Instagram is just essentially a motivational picture, motivational quote. The Facebook is usually motivational quote or motivational picture or something goofy because we mix in comedy with everything that we do. The one thing that I'd really like to tell anybody listening to this who's actually trying to gain something from the shit that we've been talking about is understand that life happens. Life is full of trauma. It's up to us to decide what we do with that trauma. You cannot control everything that happens to you, but you can always control your reaction. Accountability is the number one thing that you need in your life to be successful. You will never be successful without being accountable. And understand that being accountable doesn't mean you have to shame yourself. If you fucked up in the past, that's not you anymore. Take all the things from your past and grow from it.
Review the chapter and learn from it.
Hell yeah.
I'm so happy we're actually able to find time to put this together.
It's been too long.
Yeah, and we talked about, it started with MGTOW, and we were talking about our personal relationships at the time. And we're sitting down here in this room. We ended up talking for like 2 hours, and it was just flowing.
Yeah, it was a long time.
Yeah.
That was like 2-3 years ago.
Yeah, it was and I mentioned it to Nick. I said, I got this idea. I want to just, try to inspire men. And, same thing he's been doing, but in a different way. I
tell her to start a podcast, bro.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Here's the thing for me. If nothing else, it's documentation. Let's say I get in a car accident tomorrow. Well, my family's got something to look through, But it provides a little something if you choose to walk through it or anything. But I think this episode and the one prior, I think you should find inspiring because I find this guy very inspiring because it's the points that you've been where you reflected and decided to rebuild and re-challenge yourself. And that's something that most we say everybody, not just men, but try to challenge themselves for the next step. It's not comfortable, but if you do it enough, it's tolerable, and then it becomes comfortable.
No matter what you've been through, you can rebuild.
Yeah.
You know, it's exhausting, sure, but life's exhausting.
The rewards when you realize that you built something or corrected something or got past something is huge. Some of the shit you don't ever get past, but you find a better way to
just learn a way to live with it.
Deal with it.
You know, live with it, but also use it as fuel.
Yeah.
You know, I always tell that everything negative that happens to you, find a way to make a tragedy and use it as fuel.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter what it is. Just find a way to use that as fuel.
Yeah. Outstanding, brother. I so much
Amen.
appreciate it. A lot of good information there, you guys. Thank you for watching.
Feel free to reach out. I'm sure he'll put my info in there so you guys can
Yeah,
reach
I'll throw it up in the description.
If especially younger men, good God, find a mentor. Find a mentor, a man who's doing the things that you want to do. Pick everything you can from him. If you don't have a mentor, reach out to Scott or myself.
Yeah, I'll throw my email in the description as well. And again, the simplest thing, like if you're in Cub Scouts or Boy Scouts, the adult version is like jiu-jitsu, right? You work as a team, you accomplish a goal, and sometimes you go support your team members when they're going to compete. It's
yeah, you came to a couple of my tournaments.
Yeah, it's a tribe thing, and you support each other and you help each other learn. Sometimes it's by hurting them, but after that, you might teach them how to avoid being hurt that same way again. Mm-hmm. You help each other grow, and that's important. And it doesn't just tie to jiu-jitsu, but that's what you're talking about as far as finding a mentor. Someone that's doing something you want to do, and maybe you can learn from them and give back a little something too. Yeah. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Minute Values, Nick Rahn, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks, guys. Love it. Oh my God. It's almost 9 o'clock, homie.
Oh, shit, yeah.